questions we wrestle with as Christians about who God is, how do we live out our faith, what is the Bible, what is the truth of the Bible, what are we supposed to believe, how are we supposed to live. There are really big, deep questions that we ask each other, that we ask God, that we wrestle with ourselves. And that's why the Cultivate podcast exists, to help us go deeper in our understanding of who God is, His Word, and the way that He's called us to live. Hey everyone, welcome to the Cultivate podcast with the Grove Church. I'm Charlie Lofton, I'm the lead pastor there. And we are, what on earth? Is that a protein
This is
shake?
the most delicious drink.
Protein 2.0. I've heard of it.
I would not promote many things like this, but this stuff tastes like Gatorade.
This is back-to-back product placement.
What did I do last time?
Well, we talked about the female coffee, and then you talked about airship coffee. And
yes, no, but I usually think protein stuff tastes like chalk.
Also, it was a bit of a Walmart Plus advertisement that you did.
And I do heavily advertise for that because it is worth it.
So who would sponsor this podcast? Like you got 100 faithful listeners.
Yeah.
And who, like, I don't know.
It'd be your Chick-fil-A cup or Panera cup. My protein drinks are a Coke. I
feel like Chick-fil-A would do. I mean,
they should sponsor us.
Like
They're
what?
Christian
Like, but
place.
what's in it for them? Like, Charlie, you already spend all your money there. Like what are we?
It's
and you make everybody else meet you
loyalty.
there, and they're spending their money.
It's brand loyalty. You got to build it in. Make sure
okay.
you don't ditch them at some point.
Right.
So we need to really hook in Panera.
Here's what we could do. That Chick-fil-A Springdale has to really lock me down because Layla starts high school.
That is going to change things
this fall.
And that could not be further apart.
And there's a Chick-fil-A right there.
But you can't sit inside.
Yeah, you can. You just can't sit inside the one in North Fayetteville. The MLK one, you can sit inside.
It still has seats. Okay, I didn't know.
But
that.
I don't know if I'm trying to do that. I mean, like, especially during
there's no way out.
When it's college, you can't. There was no way in either.
True.
And anyways.
Chick-fil-A
all right, we are not in the middle anymore. We are at the tail end. We are at mile 24 of the marathon of going through all the parables.
Teaser for people to look forward to. You just told me that some really big ones are coming.
Some big ones like this.
Shockingly, we haven't covered the biggest ones.
I made this list a long time ago, and by I mean
our good friend Chat. No, you don't do Chat.
It costs 2 cups of water to
True. I'm one of
for
those...
him to make a list for us in an order how to handle all the parables and how did I don't know I understand I can't.
Did you tell it to do it in
a teaching order that makes sense? And so they are grouped somewhat together thematically. Okay. But it is surprising to me because there were so many of the bangers there at the front. I didn't think that we had any bangers left.
But you didn't.
And
tell
then as I was prepping for this session of recordings. I would say number one. This is easily top 3. Easily top 3, maybe number 1.
But you didn't tell it to organize it based on banger.
No, it was not. No.
So it just went a different route.
But like it was surprising to me that such a big. No matter how you arrange it, that a top 3 one would end up in
the back end.
number 30 or whatever it is. The parable of the talents, or depending on your translation, bags of gold.
Sorry,
you made a confused face.
I didn't realize I had actually switched to the page before or chapter before. So I was like, oop, you misspoke. But it was me.
All right. Matthew chapter.
Mine does say bags of gold.
Bags of gold.
Does the ESV say talents?
Well, let's talk about that after I read the passage.
Okay.
All right. Matthew 25, verse 14. Again, what is it? What are we even talking about? Verse 1, Matthew 25, the parable of the 10 virgins coming soon to a podcast near you. At that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like. So we're talking about the kingdom. Okay.
They talked about this in Grove Kids last week.
The kingdom? Or
the talents.
The bags of gold?
That's why it was so familiar in my mind because my small group talked about it this week.
We talked about that. We talked about it in Grove Kids, talked about it in small group. I did go back and looked at our entire list of podcasts that we've done on this to confirm that we had not done this.
We've not done it.
We haven't.
But it's
again, the kingdom will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of these servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I received, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have, will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yikes. One thing I've never noticed about this, that is the happiest line to say, come and share your master's happiness. If I came to one of my clients and they're like, come and share in our happiness, okay, let's go. That's such a happy thing.
Yep.
All
right, so let's get to your bags of gold question.
Yeah. I guess I've never read this in NIV.
Yeah, the word is talent.
Okay.
And talent is a measure of weight.
Okay.
Okay, so I've been like, like an ounce of gold, a brick of gold, right, is a certain size and weight, like a ton of gold, right?
Okay.
So a talent is a certain amount of.
So they'd be like, you owe 4 talents or something.
Well, I mean when you start talking about talent, like bags of gold, even 1 bag of gold would make you immensely wealthy.
Okay. So it's not like at the cashier's table they'd be like, that banana cost this many talents.
Yeah, I mean, for our purposes right now, we might as well be talking to like, okay, we're talking about, when we start talking about talents of gold, we're talking at least 5 figures worth of stuff.
Wow.
Right? I mean,
okay. So this guy's wealthy.
Yeah. So for the fact that he would have that much kind of, for lack of a better word, discretionary income, he's probably really, I mean, the math on this is complicated. So let's for our purposes, let's say
he's a billionaire.
Yeah, let's say that 1 bag of gold is $1 million.
Okay.
So somebody got $5 million, somebody got $2 million, somebody got $1 million.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
So we're talking about a decent amount.
Rich enough to have a bag of said money, a whole other rich to be like, I have this bag, you deal with it. That's a flex.
Well, why would the master do this?
Because he's too busy vacationing or something.
Oh,
like that's my first thought is that like he I guess wants his money, but it says that he works hard and he's still working with his crops and stuff. That's what one of the guys says in response.
Yeah, you get the impression that he's really going.
He went on a journey.
He's going on a work trip.
So but he still wants his money to be like earning interest or something.
Yes. Okay. So there you go. Okay. I'm just confirming here online. Yes. That's $1 million.
Really?
Yeah, $1 million.
Wow, that was so smart of you.
Yeah. So
it's like you went to Bible college.
Here's sometimes sometimes things are in my brain and I think that's what we should say.
Yeah.
And then like every now and then, like I don't want to just rely on what I consider
Charlie's
to be
brain.
A fairly decent memory when it comes to odd facts.
Sure.
So this guy has enough money that he's going to go on a journey, and you get the impression really that it's to go about and do business.
Okay.
Right? That he's not somebody who's going to be like, I'm going to go on a journey around the world to see what's out there. Right? Because again, by the way he reacts and what he expects, okay, I need somebody to take care. I need someone to take care of my estate while I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
So you have access to this much of my wealth. You have much of this. So this guy has $8 million
Yeah.
that he is leaving them in charge of, which I'm sure is not his entire estate, and is not how many bags of gold did he bring with him on his journey to do whatever business
Mm-hmm.
he was going to conduct. And so I think that is the first. And so the kingdom of heaven is like this.
Okay, I was about to say that's
the kingdom
what
of
he's
heaven is like
describing.
this. God is incredibly wealthy
Yes.
and generous.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And yeah. Like he is willing.
Maybe that's a broke person's perspective, but
he's willing to take risks. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right. He's a risk taker.
Mm-hmm.
He's I guess we don't get to it that he's generous until later.
Yeah.
But right here, he's a risk taker. He believes. Right.
Mm-hmm. I hired you. I'll trust you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we'll start there. He gives one person 5, one person 2, one person 1. Are we to make something out of that or not?
I would have.
No. Just in the hearing of the story. What are we?
Maybe not. I guess only to show that like the amount doesn't matter. It's did you do something or not?
Yeah, because it's like
just like was action taken.
The reward
doesn't vary.
Does it?
He praises them the same. Well done, good and faithful servant. Yeah, his praise of them is all the exact same.
Okay.
Or for the 2 guys that did something with it. So and one had more than the other, but still they got the same amount of praise.
But in the end, now one guy has 10, one guy has 10 million, one has 4 million.
Guess, yeah.
They still have more than the other one. And plus the 10, he actually has 11 now.
Yeah.
He got the
because he got the other guys.
He got the dirt gold.
The lazy, what do you call him? Lazy wicked servant.
Yeah.
I feel like still that doesn't matter though. They don't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, it's almost like it does and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like different people are going to be entrusted with different amounts.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it does not communicate in the heart of the master value.
Right.
You're more important. I love you more. You're less important. I love you less. It doesn't seem to like people are just people based on unknown factors are going to be put in charge of more things than other things and ultimately have more than someone else.
Mm-hmm. That feels like a very...
It is amongst the most, there's a lot of debate online and have been since before there was online about which if Jesus had to pick between various economic systems, which one would Jesus pick? This is definitely one of the most capitalistic parables and teachings of Jesus where indiscriminately for no reason really given, some people just have more than others, and it is not shown as something is bad or wrong or broken or there's something wrong with the master. Just some people
have more and have
able
less.
to handle more and should have more than what other people can. But again, I don't think that's the basic idea. But
I keep looking. My mind just keeps going to the end, and it makes me think of like fatherhood. I would assume you're the same, but my dad looks at all of his kids, and we're all at different financial positions. But his response is, "There's no like good or better. It's just like you haven't fallen on your face or done nothing. So good."
I would think of it more in terms of at what age would I consider each of my kids to have been responsible enough to leave them alone or to leave them in charge of somebody or to, hey, I know you're going out with your friends. Here's some money. As opposed to, I know the kid needs $20 for whatever it is they're going to. Do I hand it to them or do I hand it to the youth pastor or the other kid's dad? Right. I think there's just, and different kids, like even like some of the decisions that we have to make as parents, like if something happens to us, we've got 2 adult daughters, and then we've still got a kid at home. If something were to happen to us, I've got 2 kids. Who's in charge? And it's interesting. Like there's one that would like, we think she should live with you, but we want you to manage the money.
Yeah.
And that's not a question of favor.
Mm-hmm.
That's a question of just kind of who they are and
Yeah.
what they are most qualified to handle.
My parents just did power of attorney stuff. I didn't get anything. My mom said, "You just have fun." I love that.
I don't feel like there's anything I can say to that like I can't agree or disagree with them because it'd be problematic either way. So here's the big question. So the master leaves them these bags of gold, which are, in fact, it's important. It is important. It is a lot. It is a lot.
We don't know who he's talking to, right?
What's that?
I know he's talking about the kingdom of heaven, but we don't know who he's talking to.
I would imagine this is a disciple/crowd situation.
Okay.
When he's teaching about the kingdom, he's trying to help everybody understand.
Okay.
So what does a bag of gold represent?
Value?
No.
Oh.
So in the same way that this master has given a bag of gold to these 3 servants, God also has given Abigail
this, like, being the light? No. That was
That's a
the wrong
job.
answer.
What has he given you? He's given you something to manage until he comes back.
My relationship with him? I'm only giving wrong answers, aren't I?
I can tell by your eyes you don't believe them when you're saying them. So you should either say you don't
first
know,
thought would be
or you should say something that doesn't make you do the Abigail squint.
My first thought would be like task of evangelism. But that doesn't that you but you said that's a job.
You're still doing this.
But you said that's a job to my first answer.
He has entrusted you with something to where he gives more of it to somebody else than he does to other people. There is a way to do something with it where you earn more, and you doing something with it garners God's favor.
My final answer that I'm locking in.
Final answer
is evangelism.
Evangelism is not something that God gives you.
Dang it, that's true. All right, I don't know.
So the interesting thing is,
was I anywhere near on any of them?
You're hovering around what you believe God wants us to do with what we have.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily answer what we have, right?
Okay.
So when we call it the parable of the talents, and again, talent is a weight. It is not a
special skill.
Not a special skill, but growing up, hearing these stories in Sunday school and whatnot, they would do the play on words on it, because that's what they would say that it is. God has entrusted you with talents.
Yes.
And you need to use them in a way that honors God. So you have talent. And God, it's almost like whatever it is that makes Abigail, He has given all of that to you. And like it should be considered in its totality.
That's more global than what I was thinking.
Your resources, your gifts, your skills, your opportunities, everything that is Abigail and Abigail's life, he's given all of that to you. Somebody may live longer. Someone may have more talents or different talents, more resources or whatever. Everybody has what they have, but what you have, you now have to use. And he's going to come back and ask you,
did you use that
what you did with it?
The kingdom?
Did you hide it or did you use it? Here's the thing, though, for me. And I confess, I think I'm overthinking it.
Okay.
And I have said as much when I've taught about this publicly.
Okay.
Because if it is your talents and skills, and so
TAL, talent, TA, like skills, talents.
Yeah.
Not the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you have been given skills both with an S and a Z. Skills.
Okay. Yes.
Right. And if you are faithful with them, you will earn
double or
more skills.
Yeah.
If God gives me money and I'm faithful, he give me more money. If I'm faithful with my first 10 years of my life, he's going to give me 10 more years.
Right.
And so there's a sense in which, like, the thing that God gives you, you can earn more of makes it
I think that kind of pans out.
quirky.
That like
You know,
if I didn't, God gave me the gift of creativity. I could not use it and it lay dormant forever, but I used it and I have gone exponentially further than other people.
But if we're taking the story here, really the master coming back.
I guess that's true. I'll have a huge creative enterprise in heaven. You heard it here.
And so that's when your evangelism answer comes in a little bit. Like there is something, right? If I invest this well,
Mm-hmm.
then there are going to be more people.
Maybe not the way I was thinking of
Maybe more
evangelism,
people
though.
in the kingdom.
Yeah.
There are going to be more people with talents.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's not one Abigail, there's two Abigails.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 or 4 Abigails. So taking what you have is like what God has given to people, and you invest those into other people, and you're multiplying the kingdom, not financially,
Right.
but relationally.
Yeah.
And so me taking what God has given me, the right way to invest them to try to double it is to invest into other people. And now we come back and it's like, look at how much kingdom work has been done.
Have people ever twisted this into like you'll get a better house in heaven?
You know, I don't know that is really twisting this so much.
Oh, really?
I mean,
You think there'll be neighborhoods in heaven?
did we talk about this last year in our theology thing? Theology of heaven? I know you got me to talk about theology of hell. I do not think that there is any reasonable way to take all of the Bible's teachings about heaven and put together something that's coherent and makes sense. I just don't think that there is.
I would really like there to be neighborhoods.
I think there is so much of it that is just not. It doesn't seem like it fits well together,
Mm-hmm.
right? That it's like I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly don't. I mean, it does, but just about everything that you read says there are rewards in heaven,
Mm-hmm.
and it does seem that there are enough places that say that they will be tangible, seemingly physical sorts
Right.
of rewards.
Yeah.
And so I think faithfulness on this.
Well, and like treasures in heaven.
Yeah, faithfulness with what I have here is going to bring me personally some benefit in heaven. And then that we feel the need at the end to say, but then we're going to take everything that God gives us and we're just going to lay it at his feet, and then we're going to have
and that's
nothing. And like,
I think the modern invention of the cul-de-sac should be the corner piece of heaven.
Right. So we kind of equal parts, right? We like,
yes and no.
I want heaven to be a representative of what I particularly value.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people's like, that's just selfish American thinking or whatever. And it's like, we want to make heaven cultural, or we feel this need to make it anti-cultural.
And then it's just an arena of
then
worship.
like if there's neighborhoods, right? I mean, somebody who lived 2,000 years ago, he's going to have a mansion and he's going to be like, I don't even recognize what are these. What kind of wood is that? Like,
yeah.
Where did it even like somebody like? I guess you can. Yeah, I guess you can.
But it's going to be so many more dimensions, like the Matrix story, or like not the Matrix.
Yeah. So are the neighborhoods going to be? Are we going to be culturally separated because what I consider to be a great house is going to be vastly different than someone who lived in India 1,800 years ago?
Right.
Or are we all going to have big American-looking mansions?
They don't know what they're missing without cul-de-sacs.
Right. And so again, I don't want to underthink this parable, but I don't want to overthink it either. At its simplest,
well, it does.
God has empowered and gifted you, and you have an absolute responsibility to steward that in a way, and you will be held accountable as to whether or not you do or don't steward that well.
Well, and just that it all hinges. Everything comes after the master returns.
Yeah.
That is, however you interpret that, to look like he is mirroring that with him being the master that returns.
It is an end. It is either an end of days, or just an end of your days. right?
Yeah.
Right. It's something that's either going to happen at the end of all of our lives, or is it going to happen to all of us at the end of
Yeah.
time, regardless. Again, just like the passage last week, what you do in this life is what determines your relative joy in the next one.
I do think the last guy is really interesting, though. I don't know if they would have had this type of business mindset / theological mindset, but you would assume at least not screwing up your boss's money would be like kind of a thumbs up, not like a you wicked.
It's almost like at that point when we get to the third guy, I just imagine Dave Ramsey as the one that comes back. You should at least put that in the bank. Could have gotten some interest out of it. You're the dumbest person I've ever seen with money. You put it in a hole. What's the best you could have done is give me right back to me. You could have lost it. At least give it to the bank.
But it's not like he was the prodigal son that went and squandered all of his like.
I think that is the point that he's making. It's not just simply I didn't do the worst thing that you can imagine, but just not being faithful.
Yeah.
It's not just simply, because I think when we think of it in these terms, we think of everything in terms of what is it sin or is it not sin? He didn't do anything
wrong,
bad.
Yeah.
But he did not do what was asked of him. That was enough to receive the full displeasure of the master, which is significant. Because sometimes you think, well, I've been good. I haven't been bad.
It's almost like he's like actually calling you to be like an activated soldier.
Yeah.
Not, which maybe that's a weird term to put it into, but like not just like stay safe, board up your walls.
Again,
but like
steward
actually be
really
a part.
is the best word. Someone who is left in charge of something that does not belong to them for a period of time. That's what they are. That's what we are. I have been given responsibility for something that does not fully belong to me for a determined period of time that I will be held accountable for. Can I just say this?
Yep.
Just kind of
sidebar.
To me, the most shocking part of this passage is that first century Jerusalem had banks with savings account where you could earn interest.
They actually did?
It's what it says. You should have at least given it to the bankers so I could have gotten it back with interest.
Is
like to me that feels like such a modern concept.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like double sidebar that essentially almost the equivalent of billboards existed in the time of the gladiators, like at the Colosseum. Like
they would have big like announcements and stuff.
Yeah,
or, like,
there would
events.
be these big giant kind of paintings on the wall that would be advertising something.
Really?
Like the equivalent of a modern day billboard. And Ridley Scott, who directed First Gladiator, chose not to include them because he didn't think that people would believe that they were real.
That's really interesting.
That it was like, that he had made something up. That it would have felt out of place for us.
Would have taken
just
them out
like
of
it would have feel
context.
out of place to me if you're imagining somebody walking around Jerusalem and hands a bag of gold to a guy at a bank counter and hands him back a deposit receipt. Well, were banks
I
that
feel
developed?
Like more so that you got back more than you put in.
Well,
that feels like
that is how savings accounts work.
But I mean, that just feels like modern money handling, that there's a institution that you're going to get benefited by putting your money there.
There is I'm sure it was not FDIC insured or whatever,
right.
But still, like you give the bankers $100 and you let them have it for a year and you come back and you get it and you get 103.
Yeah.
Like that feels like a modern Western invention, but apparently it is not.
My dad is a lifetime banker, but I didn't really understand all of that stuff until I watched It's a Wonderful Life. That really sealed the deal of like, oh, that's what the bank does.
I was just going to be like, what movie is she about to say? I was going to say The Big Short.
No.
But then you said...
It's good, but...
you said It's a Wonderful Life. I'm not sure.
It really breaks down how the money isn't just sitting there.
How banks make money.
Yeah.
Money. That money's not in the bank. It's in your
It's,
house. In your
it's building their
store.
home and their fence built. Yeah. Oh, George.
Imagine 14-year-old Abigail going,
What? No, that would have been much younger Abigail. Our family, like everybody has their Christmas movie that we watch, like as a family, but everybody has their pick, and every year my dad was.
At what age would Abigail have really finally? I now understand banking.
I understood what my dad did.
At what age? You're watching Wonderful. I mean, you're watching it every year, but at what point did it all click for you?
I feel like probably like 10 or something like that. Because he always
wasn't too far off.
He
at 14,
always was like wanting us to have like our little kid account.
Right. So again, to stop overthinking it and go back to kind of being in the pocket here.
Mm-hmm.
You have a life, and God has entrusted you with a lot. What you do with it in this life matters immensely, both in this life and the next.
Mm-hmm.
And people who fail to steward what God has given them are in trouble. Again, now we got to talk about, okay, well, what if somebody puts their faith in Jesus, but then doesn't do anything with their life afterwards? Okay, stop already.
Okay.
Stop already. Because there is a category of, at least I put it in the bank. Like
that's what I'm talking about.
To do nothing with your life means to reject Jesus and God altogether.
Yeah.
That is the category of the wicked servant that gets thrown out. This mythical person who puts their faith in Jesus, but is a letdown as far as what they do with their life afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy who at least gave it to the bankers. At least he recognized that his life mattered and did something.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really work at it. It's not great. The thing that I think that Paul talks about in one of his letters, where he says people who kind of don't build their house on the right thing, it's going to get burnt up and they're going to experience loss. They'll be saved, but yet like one passing through fire.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is that category of people. So we got to stop with that. I know I'm arguing with nobody because we're in a
You're
podcast
arguing with yourself.
here. Yeah, but I'm arguing with people who like to make everything about, oh, so you can lose your salvation.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not. Stop putting post-resurrection Pauline theology on a parable.
Wasn't what he was talking about.
Even in a post-Pauline kind of post-resurrection theology, you still can make that fit. But basically,
but more so, he was talking about like, y'all think the kingdom of heaven is like this. I'm telling you, the kingdom of heaven is this, and you need to like actually use what God created you to do.
Right. Yeah. You have a significant stewardship. So I think to his people, I think it would have been surprising to them to have heard that God has given me $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have $1 million.
Yeah.
No, everyone here in this, like,
has
you have the equivalent of $1 million that God has given you. You may feel like you only have a little bit, but like what God has given you is actually crazy significant. And what you do with what you have is going to matter. Do not dig a hole.
Yeah. And hide it.
Right.
Have you seen that meme that's like, there's these kids that are like doing insults at this kid, and then the kid turns around and looks like all angelic, and he says, "My mama says I'm special." That's what it keeps making me think of.
Yeah, so I think that would have been the big shock point for them to have put them into the category of someone who
has been given,
was significant enough to have been given a significant amount of something that they were then called to steward.
And then later is the other guy that didn't do anything. But they first would have been caught up in the...
First, you got to put your mind around the fact, Abigail, God has given you something very significant to manage.
Very valuable.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Whoa. And if you don't...
Yeah.
So you've kind of awakened me to the idea that I have a significant stewardship, and then immediately gone to, if you don't steward it well, you're in trouble. That's a double shock, because I didn't even know I had it. I've obviously haven't been stewarding it because I didn't even know I had it.
Right.
And so now I'm like, oh, really? Oh, right. Like,
yeah.
Like, it was like good news, bad news, right?
Yeah.
Good news, warning, right? Good news, you've been given a lot. Significant news, you better do something with it. And but the reward is great.
Do you think
But the
this was
consequences
like?
of ignoring it are worse.
Do you think this was because they would have categorized like the only special people are like the Pharisees and
Yeah.
people like okay, so
And-
he's bringing it back to like the everybody level.
And the interesting thing too about it is, and again, I don't know if this is overthinking it or not. It took a significant amount of effort to dig a hole and bury a giant bag of gold.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like a big bag, or because it's hard to dig?
$1 million worth of gold.
I've never seen that visual
That is
representation.
it will be very, very heavy.
Okay.
It will be very large.
Okay.
Be a large bag of gold that was very, very heavy.
If there was a game show where you like had to cut up a piece of gold to represent some, I would get it wrong every single time.
There used to be this thing at Cracker Barrel when I was a kid that I was like, this looks fun. Like they would have these big blocks of cheese, and then you cut off a piece, and if you could guess exactly how much the weight was, you got to keep it, but otherwise you had to buy it. And I was like, I want to do that someday. And finally, when I was old enough to have my own money to be able to do that, they don't do it anymore.
Well, that's
I would
disappointing.
absolutely at any point, if there's any place where I can go cut off your own hunk of cheese and guess though, I would do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah, you have to buy cheese.
The worst case scenario is I'm eating cheese.
Yeah, which you already were willing to buy before.
I'm obviously I'm attracted enough to this. I like cheese. I think it's like why are we letting people in Cracker Barrel handle cheese?
That's true with their bare hands.
Anyways, thank you, Abigail, as always, and thank you guys for joining us. I encourage you. We got a few more weeks left here as we're working our way to parables, and hope you will continue to join us. And we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Cultivate podcast. Our hope is that you are taking steps to go deeper in your faith, that you are asking big questions and you're looking for answers. We hope that we can be a resource for you through our podcast and any other way that we can help you. You can find all our episodes anywhere that you can find podcasts, including YouTube. And again, thank you so much for joining us.